Hi, my name is Tamara. This is the Festival Network. My mission is to create a platform where industry professionals can be authentic about their journeys. Join me as I take you behind the scenes of the amazing culture that encompasses more than just music. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day. In this interview, I chat with Komuz in the Mad Hatter Tea House. Komuz, also known as Andre, is a bass music producer growing up with music, culture, and community as a big part of his life. He has been in the bass music scene for nearly 9 years and is recently gaining a lot of traction in the US. Komuz is currently signed with Mind Warp Management Group and lives in Denver, Colorado, where there are many opportunities in the bass scene. He has performed at festivals like Grimefest, Buku, Bass Rush, and Wakan. I really connected with Andre about our shared passion for music and gained a lot of insight and knowledge from our conversation. One thing that really hit home with me is that Komuz aims to inspire others to connect with themselves through music. His sets are a mix of bass, trap, dubstep, and hip hop, making it easy for everyone to feel connected by the music. In 2023, Komuz released 3 EPs, Up to No Good, Crown of the Underground, and his most recent EP, No Breaks. Y'all go check that out if you're looking for songs to add to your gym playlist. You won't be disappointed. Komuz also just completed a US tour supporting Taboo, along with other DJs from the Wakan label. You can connect with Komuz on your favorite social platform and stream his music on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud. Now let's get to the chat. What's up, Festival Network? Tamara here with Komuz here at Wakan Festival, and Komuz played at the pre-party last night. He threw down, got everyone warmed up for an awesome weekend, and we're just so excited to be here and to find out, a little bit more about Komuz. And let's hear what he has to say.
Hey, happy to be here. Thank y'all for having me.
Yes.
This is a brilliant setup, especially in this lovely little tea house we have here.
Yeah, we're in a Mad Hatter Tea House. Don't have any tea, but that might come a little bit later.
2 a.m. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, 2 a.m. So I just was wondering, what is your definition of music?
Oh, wow. That's a really great question to start off with. I think music is... there's obviously the scientific definition of it, right? With the vibrations of sound waves within the air that create certain pitches. But I feel like that really translates into feelings as well, right? Because, when you think of good vibes, right, you think of, music, and you think of the things that kind of move you. So I would suppose music is any kind of vibration that really makes you feel something on a deeper level.
How has music been influential in not just you as an artist, but you as an individual, staying sane, making sure like you're happy? Like, do you have certain kinds of music that you prefer to listen to when you're in certain moods, or when you're trying to be creative versus focusing?
Oh, absolutely. Music means the world to me. I come from a music-based household. Since the time, especially coming from New Orleans, it's a musical city. It's where most modern music came from. If you really want to go all the way back to blues and jazz, that's what pop is now. So it's always been something that's surrounded me my whole entire life. My dad he still does, in the band at church. And so every Sunday, I'd be next to him and his bandmates playing music there. All the festivals that we had, I was going to Jazz Fest since I was a kid. My parents were bringing me there. So I've always been influenced by it. It's always been such a major, important part of my life.
Yeah.
I can't really imagine it without it, but to answer, what do I listen to outside of, EDM? I'm a bit more of a rock individual. I typically actually say most of my diet when it comes to music is going to be closer to maybe 30% dance music and then 70% other stuff.
Yeah.
Big metalhead. I love metal.
Yeah. I grew up listening to metal and classic rock too, so that's what got me into like dubstep.
Well, it's high energy stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's where it translates. You
Yeah.
know, especially if you listen to a lot of like the tear out stuff,
Mm-hmm.
the harder stuff. You know, that's like a breakdown
For sure.
in like a hardcore song, right?
Yeah.
And so metal's always been there for me. Pop punk. I was in a lot of pop punk bands growing up.
Yeah.
As I gotten older, I've kind of gone back to my southern roots, gotten a little bit more into country and stuff like that, which is a little bit more chill.
I love the jam band vibe too, like when you can mix in like a little bit of banjo and harmonica in with like the EDM influence. That's
Absolutely.
such a cool like daytime vibe, I feel like.
I feel like that stuff's really necessary, especially when you need to relax and kind of it's salt of the earth. The more experience you have, the more you realize how more meaningful that music is.
Yeah.
You know, when you're a kid, you know, it's like everything but country, right?
Yeah.
Because country's supposed to be this lame genre. But the more that I experience, the more I kind of connect with that feeling and what they're talking about. Even though I don't own a pickup truck or have a dog. And luckily, my girlfriend hasn't left me.
She didn't leave you,
no,
yeah.
So, but I can still imagine, right? You know?
Yeah. So I love that honestly so much because music, I feel like, is such an important and crucial thing in humanity, is kind of the glue that holds us all together.
Universal language.
The
absolutely.
universal language. We can all relate to it. Someone can be beating on the drums on a bucket on the sidewalk, you know, and you can walk by and have a connection with that person that you don't even know.
Singing in a different language, but
you can still feel
the
it.
way that they pronounce it and the way that they, you know, give it to you and purvey it to you can still move you to tears. You know what I mean? Because the emotion is still there behind it. And I definitely think it does transcend language. It transcends most things.
Yes, absolutely. What would you say some of the biggest challenges that you've had to face being an artist, like coming up over the past 9-10 years? Personally, overcoming like imposter syndrome, have you ever had to deal with anything like that?
Absolutely.
And how have you combated that?
Well, I still deal with imposter syndrome today. You know, it's when you get to meet people that you've looked up to for forever, or peers that are doing much better than you, it's hard not to feel like, am I really supposed to be here? How I combat it, I don't know. I still kind of feel it, and I still kind of just deal with it as it comes. And I think it's more having people in your corner that support you and remind you that like you are supposed to be here. You know, and most of the time you realize when you are around those people that you like look up to and that make you feel insecure in that way. Most of those people, especially in this scene, are some of the most welcoming and loving individuals. And so once you get past that initial step and you just say hi, like, hey, I'm Andre, and they're like, oh, I love your music, or, you know, nice to meet you, I'm this or I'm that, it really starts to dissipate. So I actually probably more when you actually get to connect with those people and realize that, you know, they're just like you, and that veil kind of drops. You know, you can kind of get over that. I mean, the hardships dealing with music today, you know, I think the biggest one is just oversaturation. You know, it's a good thing and a bad thing. The barrier to entry for music has never been lower. Anybody can buy a laptop. Anybody can buy production software. Anybody can just go buy a guitar and a recording mic and upload it to Spotify, right? So the amount of music that's coming out today, I think the biggest barrier is breaking through to an audience, because what is it? This is probably a horrible stat, and I'm butchering it, but like 10,000 songs a day on Spotify. Okay. Something like that.
That get uploaded?
Yeah, something crazy like that. So to find a unique voice and to find people that are going to attach to that unique voice, I think that's probably the most difficult thing, is to really stand out in such an oversaturated market.
Right. Yeah, I feel like in any industry today, it's just highly competitive. It doesn't matter if you're in sales, real estate, music, you know, anything. And so what do you say, or what do you do that you feel like sets you apart, or that you continue to implement so you grow your brand and tell your story as Komuz?
Absolutely. I think it's authenticity at the end of the day. I think being someone that these people feel they can connect with, like your fans, like this is someone who I'd like to hang out with, that has gone through the same things as me, sees the world the same way as me, you know, being cookie cutter and making sure that, you know, your socials are perfect and you're not saying anything negative, or you're not really showing your emotions and you're trying to be corporate and trying to get to that stage. I think that time has passed. I think people are really looking for something really
More
authentic. And like, you know, if you walk up to me, the things I tweet, the things I post, like sometimes like it's not about music. Sometimes I post about my feelings. Sometimes I'll tweet about how bad I'm feeling and this is what I'm doing to kind of get through it. And I think that that's the best way to kind of separate yourself. Also kind of having a unique vision, you know, because you can have certain aesthetics that you can kind of separate yourself with, color schemes. You know, what I'm trying to do with Komuz is that it has a backing with my city and also something kind of universal, right? So I try to choose something that people can connect with on a broad scale. And then when they look into it, they see that it's a bit more personal as well. Komuz, he's a Greek god. He's a son of Dionysus. So he's a party god. They used to throw festivals in his name. It's supposed to be spelled Comus. But I kind of switched it up a little bit just to put a little more taste on it.
We Googled Komuz earlier and we found an instrument.
Yeah, it's a Kyrgyzstani instrument, which is cool as well, which was
similar metaphor.
Exactly. It was a nice mistake, if you will, because I switched it up and then I Googled it as well. And I was like, oh, and it's a musical instrument. How cool is that? You know, exactly. So
have you tried to implement that instrument into any of your songs yet?
Oh, that's a good idea. I haven't even thought about that. That's brilliant. Absolutely. Yeah, I know it's a
worldly sound, so I feel like it would be pretty easy to like.
It's a stringed instrument. Maybe do some sampling with it. Absolutely.
That would be fun.
But it has this kind of party mentality, right? Because, you know, I'm from a place where all we do is have a good time. The first Mardi Gras crew ever created in New Orleans was the Mystic Crew of Komuz. So that's where I got the connection from, right? Exactly. So we have a Greek party god, something very special and important to my home. And so the way that those kind of crossed over, a universal appeal of Greek mythology. Everybody can kind of connect with those things, right? Everybody has some sort of base of, you know, pillars or the Colosseum or Zeus and these Greek gods. And so I thought it was a way to get a universal appeal, something people can connect with, but also make sure that it was authentic to me and where I'm from. So I try to create with this project a space for people to feel a sense of community like we do with Mardi Gras. It's a time where our whole entire city comes together as a unit and celebrates and parties. And that's kind of the vibe and the space I'm trying to create.
Awesome. I love that. Have you thrown any like just private shows with your friends like in Denver? You guys like throw your own little
Not in Denver, but that's how we started off with. If you ask any DJ, that's kind of how they all started off, is just, you know, either in college or with your homies, somebody gets a mixer and somebody gets interested, and then, you know, you're over at a house party and you're just playing around and messing around, and then you realize how fun it is, and you realize, wow, I'm kind of good at this, right? Everybody's kind of vibing, and you're like, okay, I can put a set together, and then it kind of expands from there.
For sure.
So I haven't done that too much recently. But that's definitely how I got started, was just hanging out with the friends and throwing little parties ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, from my experience, no, seriously, in 2020, I decided to learn how to DJ. And so we had so much time to just, you know, party, and it was just me and my friends, so I wasn't embarrassed. I literally just had like an open floor, and I messed up a ton. Yes, exactly. You're gassing me up.
Like,
so
what you just play? What song was that? You know, you just show them, you're like, yo, this is it. I just found it. It gives you that energy, and you kind of want to relive that. You know, I also, you know, ever since I was a kid, you know, my dream was always to be a rock star. You know, it goes back to the whole music thing growing up with the family. You know, I remember when I was talking with my dad about this, because, you know, it takes a while for anything to get going, and it's still taking me a bit to get going. You know, I'm still kind of a lower mid-tier artist, right? And I have a long way to go. But, you know, it's starting to show fruit now. But when it's not showing fruit, it's really difficult to convince the people in your life that, hey, this is a viable option for my future.
Yeah, I'm kind of dealing with that right now as well, because I'm doing something that, like, none of my family members are an entrepreneur. They're all like either teachers or they worked for, you know, people, or they're doctors. And so just showing them that, like, this is what I'm passionate about. If I stick to it, if I have a plan, and if I make it consistent, and really put myself out there. Like, I know in my head that it will work out.
If you speak to them in their language, it works. Yeah, I remember being able to bring my dad out at a festival, my parents out to a festival, and there was a big crowd, it was like 4,000 people.
Oh,
and I brought them on stage, and then afterwards I was like, but I remember some of the conversations. I was like, Dad, you're the one who bought me the instruments and bought me these lessons. And
did
all
you
these
forget?
Things. This is just as much on you as it is on me, right? So this is something that I've always really wanted to do. So,
what has been your favorite festival that you've played so far, or favorite location? Not even just festival, but just in general.
Favorite location in general. There's a lot of really good places all across the country. Obviously, with Con, nothing beats Mulberry Mountain. This place is just magic. That's why it's home. Like I said earlier, like this place it almost never changes, and it's beautiful in that way. The crowd last night was one of the biggest I've had ever, and it was really fantastic. Other than Wakana, I'd have to say Buku. Festival back in New Orleans. It no longer exists, and they had a really
That's
great
what I was wondering,
run.
if it still existed. I had a lot of friends that went to it when I first got into raving, and that was always on my list. But was it after 2020 they didn't do it anymore?
Yeah, I think they might be changing it a little bit, but I do know that there's going to be some new... they're building some new things on the riverfront there, so I think Mardi Gras World isn't going to be the same anymore.
It can be challenging building an infrastructure or creating an infrastructure for festivals that happen in the city too.
Yes,
for safety
best
and
city
comfort,
And I've been to Ultra and stuff, and I think Buku's because it was intimate like this. It was a small festival, 10 to 15,000, right in the heart of New Orleans. I mean, I used to live a mile away from it, so I could just walk to the festival.
That's awesome.
It was fantastic. But yeah, the vibe's right there on the Mississippi River. New Orleans is my favorite place, so it's that's probably my other favorite is that festival. Rest in peace. Hopefully we see something great come from it.
Yeah, hopefully. Switching up a little bit off of like music and festivals, I kind of want to go into just some of your personal hobbies. Like, what do you like to do outside of music? Are you like a big nature guy? Do you like to do hiking, fishing, any other hobbies that you pursue?
Absolutely. I mean, music kind of consumes my life. But the beautiful thing about being in Denver is you are right outside of the mountains. I've been doing outdoor stuff since I was a kid. I've been camping, especially out in North Carolina and stuff. So I do love being outdoors. I love reading. Acquiring knowledge is one of my favorite things ever. I like to try to learn.
What's your favorite book?
My favorite book ever is 1984.
1984.
Which I think
George Orwell.
Yeah, it's one of the best ever.
It's one of the scariest books.
Yeah, and that's why I try to reread it every couple of years or so. The best book I've read recently, it might be The Tao of Pooh, which is kind of
is that a Chinese?
Yeah, it's about Taoism, but it's about how Pooh is like all the characters in Pooh and Winnie the Pooh and everything. They all represent different aspects of Taoism, and like how Pooh is like the perfect representation of that. God, what other one did I read?
That's also the nickname of Xi Jinping.
There you go.
Is
exactly.
Pooh?
Yeah.
But also Pooh is a formless rock, I think, in Taoism. I'm also probably just somebody who's really into Taoism is probably gonna get on me about this. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like Pooh, like the name Pooh it represents a certain kind of like formless creature or formless rock in the Taoist teachings.
So kind of like adaptable to any environment.
Yes, absolutely. So that was really enlightening, especially because I enjoyed a brief stint reading into Buddhism and like reading a lot of Ram Dass. And then I was like, let me see what's up with this Taoism, and a friend recommended it to me, and so I picked that up and started going into it.
Yeah, that's really cool. I haven't personally done a lot of digging into like other cultures, religions, or anything, but I am really spiritual. And so I do, meditate, and I feel like there's just so many tools that we don't implement in Western culture and Western society that are used. And I feel like that could have a reason to why people here aren't so happy.
Absolutely. I think learning about religions and all different types of religions is definitely one of my favorite things to do, because I think at the end of it, when you dive into enough of them, you realize how common they all are in the same way. And it's just different people's from different parts of the globe that weren't in communication at the time, weren't able to communicate. We're just trying to understand the world and to understand the things around it. And so it's intriguing to see how all the different ways we've adapted to try to understand this reality, which is pretty much not understandable.
Yeah.
You know?
Did you grow up in like a religious household?
Yeah, I grew up Catholic.
Okay. So are you still Catholic?
I mean, in the eyes of the church, I'd be considered Catholic. You know, I'm baptized and I'm confirmed. I don't practice the religion anymore, though.
Yeah. So I guess you kind of lean more just on the spiritual side of things.
Just open to anything. Open to just trying to understand the best I can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I use the word God a lot, you know, because I think that's just a way that a word that is
everyone
easy.
can relate to it.
It means something to everybody, but it means the ultimate, right? The more. You know?
Have you traveled to other countries that have like anywhere that has like super important what's the word I'm trying to say? I'm trying to think of how to word this.
Ideologies?
Ideologies, but basically like the cultures and civilizations that helped, you know, the world to be to what it is today. Like ancient culture, ancient civilizations.
And those experiences are like India or something. No, I've actually never left the country.
I butchered that question.
No, it's a great question. I got what you're saying. I've never left the country, unfortunately. That's something that I've always wanted to do. It just hasn't been in the cards yet. I have a passport, but I just never set that up.
Where would be the first on your list?
Where would be the first place on my list is France.
France. Why is that?
France. Well, I'm French, you know, from New Orleans. You know, we can date my family back to 1703, right? So we've been there since the beginning. At least
so you have a family tree and
you know, colonialism.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm like 13 to 15 generations in. So I've always wanted to. One of my bucket list items. If you're like, what's the one thing you can like? If this was your number one bucket list item, it'd be go to France for 2 weeks and experience Mardi Gras the way they experience Mardi Gras.
Okay.
So
I honestly didn't even know they celebrated Mardi Gras there for some reason.
That's where it started. And it's a Catholic tradition as well. Which is kind of cool. But other than that, I'd love to check out Central America. I think that'd be really cool. Argentina, check out the south of that. Those mountain ranges are like Patagonia. It'd be really cool. And Southeast Asia. Anywhere in Southeast Asia. Mainly Japan to start off with and kind of go from there.
Japan, Thailand, like any of those island countries over there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Mexico. Honestly, if you're into like spirituality, I feel like Tulum is one of the best places to go for that. Just because we recently went and it was my second time out of the country. So we went to Mexico 2 times, but Tulum just has this certain energy about it.
Love it.
That it's like slow pace but fast pace, and I don't know how to describe it, but like there's like its own pace that takes you a couple of days to like get used to when you're there, but there's also a lot of like Mayan ruins that you can go and see. Obviously ayahuasca ceremonies, you can do that.
No, I like to say that about New Orleans as well, though. It has its own culture and own energy and flow. But I also think this is one of my favorite facts about it is that it's on the same parallel as the pyramids of Giza. It's on the 33rd parallel right there. Exactly. So that's where I think that energy comes from.
Yeah. So do you believe that like we're all connected by certain energies or certain hemispheres, or what is your
I think
opinion?
everything's connected in some way, shape, or form. I mean, we only have 5 senses, and those senses can only basically take in certain amounts of those frequencies, right? We can only see so much light, and we can only see so many waves. We can only hear so many sound frequencies. We can only feel so many different things. And so I feel like we're limited in our senses, and that there's things that we can't sense but do exist around us that all tie into one another. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. And it's really cool whenever you feel like you are part of an organism and like everyone is, you know, just on the same vibe and like the same energy. I think that's such a unique thing that we get to experience at festivals.
Absolutely,
you know?
which is nice because most of the people here do understand that and then operate on that level. The issue is that the real world, not everyone understands that and doesn't operate on that level. And I feel like if we were able to get across to everybody in that way, everything would be just a little bit easier. But sometimes you just got to understand, like, that's just a version of you that just isn't going to get it this round. And you just got to have, you know, the humility and empathy to just say, hey, you know, like, good luck on the next one, you know?
Yeah. So I have a really funny question. And this is like, I was debating on asking this, but have you ever seen an extraterrestrial like UFO, or have you ever experienced, since it's kind of like a big deal right now and it's the government is finally coming out and like telling people like, okay, they're real. Have you ever experienced anything like that or seen anything abnormal?
I've done some abnormal. I've not done. I've seen some abnormal stuff before. I've probably done abnormal stuff as well. But you know, New Orleans is a very haunted place, so I do believe in ghosts.
It's creepy stuff in here.
Yeah, I have a friend that had this really old home, and I saw some really like just kind of experienced some really creepy things, especially in that place. And you know, like we like to say, like vampires still exist in the French Quarter. So I do have, you know, stories of like ghosts and running into.
But you've never seen a UFO?
No extraterrestrial. I've tried to talk my friends out of saying that they've seen UFOs and saying that's just a satellite, because
exactly.
Right?
Because no one really wants to admit it. Like, no, did I actually see that, or is it? It could be a star, it could be a satellite, it could be anything. But I just think it's something cool that like
I think
we can talk about now. You know, like I believe in aliens. We're probably have some
here. The probability of us being the only species to exist,
right?
Yeah, definitely not happening.
What are some fun projects or anything that people can look forward to, like new albums or projects or shows that you have coming up in the near future?
Yeah, well, we're going to close off the year pretty strong. Have Knoxville at the end of October on the 27th. We have in November, we got Chicago, and actually we're going to be back here in Fayetteville at the end of November. We have a nice little Midwest run. I think we got like Des Moines, Omaha, and Kansas City in December. So closing off the year strong.
It'll be cold up there.
It will be. It will be. I'm gonna try to get one more EP out. Probably self-release it by the end of the year. So be on the lookout for that.
Awesome. Hell yeah. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. You're amazing.
Pleasure.
Actually, I'll give you a hug.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing everything that you do in the future.
I'm here for it.
And love that I got to see you in OKC and here at Wakan.
Oh, y'all saw Daydream?
We did. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome.
There.
Brilliant. Well, I'm happy that I got to make this experience with y'all. Happy to be at the start, ground floor. I can't wait to see where this goes. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Life